Alright y'all, we're back and we're going to be having some classic hot and sour soup before the game hunt. This is some very delicious stuff. Let's hit it. And we were just at Tokyo Station and we're heading to the Super Book Off Bazaar, also in Tokyo, not too far away actually, at Omori Station, as you can see. And our destination is literally a block away. This is the Book Off Super Bazaar. Let's go ahead and head inside. Now, before we start things off, subscribe. Look at this, 72% of the viewership are not subscribed, so that's definitely a little bit disheartening, but help me out. It's free and it means more to me than what you can imagine. So definitely hit the subscribe button, y'all. Let's continue on here. We're taking a look at a few controllers. We saw the Optic pad there, and then we have the SunStation pad for the PlayStation. And then here we have a Super Famicom mouse coming in at 1,300 yen. And there's all sorts of random stuff here. And this is the part, this is a section that you definitely want to take your time. We have this binary domain headset for the PlayStation 3, which that is an excellent game, if I might add. But I would suggest, like taking a look initially at this section. You're going to see this ASCII mission stick for 3,800 yen. Go to another section of the store and then come back to it, as you will likely find other stuff that you missed that first time around. Here we have a PlayStation DualShock. This is coming in at 4,800 yen. It has a few notes, as does this PlayStation 2, but 1,800 yen in the box. And that is a classic looking box, that all blue. And then we have the Famicom disk system. We have a pair of those coming in at 4,800 yen. And again, there's a few notes there. Here we have a fishing controller for the classic PlayStation for 700 yen. And then a whole bunch of PlayStation 2s. These are going to be the original fat models. And next to that, we got some PS1s, and we'll take a look at, see what the price is. And that's 500 yen. And this is a 7,500 model. And then here we have, what do we have here? A racing wheel for the Saturn. And then this one is slightly less expensive due to the discoloration there. And then we have a Saturn up top for 7,800 yen. And again, this is Tokyo. And when I was at this location, I actually didn't see too many foreigners in here. So this is definitely not I would say, not necessarily like a touristy trap location, but definitely one that reflects the cost of living and the cost of being in Tokyo. So here we had a little VMU. What else do we have here? We got a PS2 Slim, and then down we got a clone system, and then two Famicoms coming in at 1,800 yen. Now, if you go out to the countryside, you're likely to find a Famicom for as low as 300 yen, and it's definitely going to be discolored. But look at that, 2,800 for that PS2 Slim. Then we have an N64, and they're all coming in at slightly different prices there, as you can see. But yeah, the 64, I've been reworking the collection for that recently. Definitely a great platform, that one. And then here we have another PlayStation 2 for 19,000. That's going to probably be like a 9,000. No, it's a 7,000 series next to a GameCube. Now this one is coming in at, what's the price there? Let's take a look. At 8,800 yen, and it's going to have a few notes, most likely a little bit dirty there and scratched. We got a Tales of Vesperia Edition 360 unit, and that's coming in at 7,800 next to a 9,000 PS1. And look at that, that's coming in at 16,000 yen. That's definitely a lot more than I'm willing to pay for this unit, but there you go. And the box looks actually pretty clean there. And then we got the Wii U basic set for 4,800 yen. And again, this is going to be fairly clean looking. Next to that, we got some more PlayStations. We got PS1, PS3. And those PS3s, these are going to be the slim model, a variety of those in a 160 gig, 80 gig. Then we got them loose here, and then we're going to make our way up top. And we have the Super Street Fighter 4 arcade stick. I believe this is the Mad Catz one. No, that's probably a Hori one. And then we have the Hudson Joy card. Look at this for the Super Famicom, 3,800 yen. Now, the Hudson Soft Famicom controllers are definitely a lot nicer looking than that. But here we have a Bluetooth PS3 headset, and then the remote control for 1,800 yen. Kind of surprising that it still has the original packaging, but as you can see there, it was cut open. We got a Wii U Pro controller there. We got the racing wheel for Mario Kart 8, and then we have some PS4 Pros for 25,000 and some change. as well as a few discounts there. If you notice, one of them had 1,000 and the other one about a similar discount there. And then what do we have here? We got the Dragon Quest 10. I believe this is a Wii. So a little bit of a kind of a cool bundle there. And then we have some more PlayStation DualShock controllers from DualShock 1, 2, and 3. Probably a few 4s in there. And then we have the Ring Fit there for the Switch. And then look at this, PlayStation Vita cases. I recently got a PlayStation Vita. I highlighted it in a short, so I was definitely after a case. And this is a great place to search for that. You know, just in the bins, there's just so many cases, not only for the Vita, but also for all sorts of handhelds. And then this fishing controller for the N64. We got a modem cable here for the Dreamcast. So if you're a collector of all things Dreamcast, definitely worth a look. And then here we have a GunCon. The GunCon's coming in at 1,300 yen. They also had a GunCon 2 for slightly less at 990 yen, which that's probably the lowest that I've seen it in a while. And then we have the Konami Blaster for 1,800 yen, and that's a pretty cool looking light gun there. Now here on the side, we got some PSP action. We also have some 3DS, DS, all sorts of handhelds just kind of hanging out here. And there's going to be a variety of little issues with them, but 3,800 yen, 700 yen for that DSi, I believe. And all sorts of good stuff here. So definitely, if you find yourself here, definitely take your time looking through all that stuff hanging there on the hooks. And then a Switch Lite even, wow. And then these are the new releases, and you're gonna see a lot of Switch here, PlayStation 4, and yeah, mainly just Switch and PS4. I'm surprised that they didn't have. Oh, down below we got the Soul PS5 game, which was Grand Theft Auto 5. And then here we have Tears of the Kingdom, Tales of Symphonia Remastered, which was also available on the PlayStation 3. We have Ghost Trick, which I believe Japan is the only region that got a physical release for that. But we're going to make our way down the first game aisle, and we're just going to be cruising through here because there's definitely a lot to see. But here are the old software. We got Super Famicom, GameCube, Dreamcast, a variety of different platforms. So let's have a little bit of a closer look. And here we have Super EDF Earth Defense Force by Jellico for the Super Famicom. Now 7,000 and some change. This one has definitely risen in price. I purchased it back in April for about 5,600 yen at Akihabara, but in Akihabara itself, it's definitely twice that price now. It's well over 10,000 yen now, which is kind of crazy because it's only been like, what, 7 months, 6 months since I purchased it, and it just kind of jumped up in price. But here, all these loose cards, you're going to see all the first-party stuff as well as some notable third-party titles. And again, this is a section that you're gonna, if you find yourself here, you're gonna spend quite a bit of time if loose cards are your thing. But there are a few games complete in the box. Here we have Parodius, fairly clean copy here for 5,900 yen. I do like that cover, and I have to admit I haven't really given this series too much of my time, but perhaps one day. And then here we have another Konami game, and this looks like one of those jockey racing games, and I do like this artwork here. Kind of an interesting style of art there. And then on the opposite side, we have our Wii U, Xbox 360, and Wii titles. So let's have a closer look and see what we can find. We have new Super Luigi Bros, or Wii U, for 1,800 yen. This is the standalone release. And I wonder if how many of these Wii U games actually have full English language support. But here we have One Piece Unlimited World R. This is also available on the PlayStation Vita and I think the PlayStation 3. And that was a fun game. I used to play that one way back. We have Biohazard there for 720 yen. And then up above we have some Fatal Frame, which a lot of these games are getting re-released for the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch. Here we have Biohazard 5 for the 360 for 480 yen, and you get that little tin case, and I believe it does have like a soundtrack, but the soundtrack is limited to like a few tracks. And then we have Final Fantasy 13 for 2,300 yen. Look how thick that case is. I believe this is like four discs, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a single Blu-ray on the PS3. And then this is the Switch section. Again, look at this. So many titles, and they're just kind of squeezed into this 12-foot or 16-foot section. But there's going to be quite a bit of stuff here. So if Switch is your game, or if Switch is what you're after, this is definitely a place to consider. As you know, usually like the current gen platforms are not, you know, the games for that is not too expensive in Tokyo. It's mainly like the retro stuff that's seeing a heavy increase in the price. But this is the next aisle, and a lot of it is going to be PlayStation stuff from PS1 all the way to PlayStation 5. Although the PS5 section was fairly small. And then here are the PS Vita games, and we'll have a quick look here. See what we can find, and then we have a few collector's editions, limited editions, and I'm not really familiar with these, but the price on that isn't too bad. 3,200 yen, and you get a box, and I think it has like a little figure there. And then here we have another game which I've never heard of for 2,300 yen. Looks like a little visual novel type of game, and you get a music CD and an art book. And then next to that we have what, Revised. Another one that I haven't heard of, but look at this, 1,100 yen, and I wonder what kind. It looks like it has an extra a soundtrack disc. And then we have PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale. I remember this game when it released. I never actually gave it any. I haven't played it, but kind of it would be interesting to try it out. And then we have Unit 13. I believe this was also a launch title. And then Killzone Mercenary for 900 yen. This is a great game on the PlayStation Vita. Highly recommended, especially if you love first-person shooters. And now we're going to make our way into the PS2 titles, and I have to say their PS2 selection was actually pretty solid. Now here we have Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition coming in at 270 yen. Now if you go out to the country, you're likely to find this for 50 yen, but still it's probably not worth it heading all the way out there just for that game. And that game does have full English language support, as does Silent Hill 4 The Room. Now this is the greatest hits release of The Room, but if you get the vanilla release, like this Biohazard Greatest Hits, it does come with a soundtrack CD. And that's definitely worth it, that soundtrack CD for Biohazard 4 on the PS2. 480 yen. And I believe the soundtrack has about 15 tracks. And then here we have Bonanza Bros from the Sega Ages collection for 1,100 yen. What else do we have here? We have the Fatal Fury Battle Archives Volume 2. This one is definitely worth it. And then we have Beautiful Joe 2. Look at that foily cover for 720 yen. That is a mean looking cover. Beautiful Joe, I had that way back in the day for the Cube. And then we have KOF 2002 Unlimited Match for 8,000 and some change. This one's definitely a pricey one, but it has a huge roster of characters. And then we have Maximum Impact for KOF. What else do we have here? KOF 98. And I believe this one has like the remade 3D backgrounds. And what do we have? Neo Wave, and I believe that was on the Adamus Wave. And then we have the Art of Fighting collection, and the King of Fighters Nests from, I believe that's 99 up until 2001. And then we have another Maximum Impact. So quite a bit of KOF or King of Fighters SNK games here. So a pretty good selection there. And then we have Samurai Showdown 5 for 900 yen. So if you're a collector of fighting games, and then we have Fate Unlimited Code. I hear that one's a good title. Haven't tried it out myself yet, but then we have Rumble Roses. So a pretty solid selection of fighting games, but you know what? We're not done, because I definitely love the fighting genre. We have the Vampire Darkstalkers collection for 3,200 yen. This is the vanilla release. And then the Greatest Hits release, look at this, 1,000 yen cheaper for 2,300 yen. Although I really don't like that release just because it looks so blurry. And then we have some Ultraman Fighting Evolution. Now this one could be a fun title. I haven't actually played it myself, but judging by those screenshots, that could be a good time. Then we have Garou for 2,700 yen, and the fighting games don't stop. Look at all this stuff. We got some more Garou. Actually, they had quite a bit of Garou there. And then we have another Maximum Impact Regulation A. Then we got some kind of simulation game, most likely. This is a fighting game as well for 270 yen, and it could be good. This could be kind of like a sleeper title. And then we have Unlimited Match there for 98. And then we have the original Killzone for 1,500 yen. It's been so long since I've played this one, and I believe that has a remaster on the PS3. But then we have Gradius 3 and 4. It's a great collection. I believe that was also like a early release. And then look at this sea of PlayStation 4 games. Look at all this. I don't really focus too much on the PlayStation 4, but definitely an awesome console. And its legacy is already cemented. It's great. What do we have here? I'm not sure what this is, but this caught my attention, this big old box. what is that, Disgaea? Something like that. Some kind of role-playing game it looks like. But pretty cool. What do we have here? This is another one that I have no idea what that could be. And what do we have here? Neo for I played this one, and I was kind of curious about part 2. But, you know, part 1, kind of like a Soulsy type of game. But now this is a super classic. 9,000 yen for this, the Old Hunters edition of Bloodborne. And look at that. You get the mini soundtrack, a guide, and the game, and the DLC all in one package. But that was such a great game. Highly recommended. Here's the small PlayStation 5 section. And the recently announced PS5 Slim. What do y'all think? Kind of a funky looking one, but that's probably going to be the one, the specific console that I get when I inevitably upgrade to the PS5. And then here we have the Eco and Wanderer collection. Now this isn't complete, and they have a few of them, and they're all at 1,500 yen. Now this is missing the Obi card. This has the Obi card, but it's going to be missing the little book, as you can see. And then I'm going to pull another one down, and this one has the book, but it is missing the Obi card. So just be careful of that if you're a super completionist. And now making our way into the PS3 titles, we have Terminator Salvation here. I remember seeing this movie in the theater, a little bit forgettable, but I wonder how the game is. We have Tales of Vesperia. Now in the West, at least in the States, North American region, it was only released on the 360. Now here's the complete edition to Dirt 3. This was super tempting, as I am a big fan of Dirt 3. And then we have MotorStorm 2 for 900 yen. That's another great racing game on the PlayStation 3. Then we have Need for Speed Carbon there for 900 yen, and a few other titles. And then what is this? Race Driver Grid. I believe this was repackaged in North America as Ridge Racer Grid. And then we have KOF 13, which recently got a Nintendo Switch release, and I believe also on the PlayStation 4. But that's a great game. We have Super Street Fighter 4 Ultra, and that's definitely a super low price, as is this Soul Calibur 4 for 270 yen. That's a great game. And then look at this, Africa, 480 yen. In North America, this game is super expensive, but here it's just peanuts. I remember when that one released, I think you just take pictures, and as you take pictures, you gain money so you can buy better camera equipment. And then here's the PlayStation 1 titles. We have a few Capcom Generation titles here, which I believe these were all bundled later as the Capcom Classics collection for the PS2. But they're all fairly good, especially on the PlayStation, as they have the original aspect ratio intact. I believe on the Saturn they're a little bit wonky. But we have Biohazard 2 for 270, Clock Tower 2 for 480 yen. I believe this one has full English voice acting. Not really sure what this title is by Namco, but it kind of caught my attention there, because it wasn't your typical Tekken or Ridge Racer. Here we have another racing game for 900 yen. And some of these racing games on the PlayStation could be fun. The PlayStation definitely had a load of racing games that were cool. And then look at this baseball game for 270 yen. Look at the graphics on this bad boy. Look at that. Those characters are huge. That one could be fun, especially if it has like a home run derby. And there's another copy of that game. And then we have Crash Team Racing for 480 yen. Dirt Champ for 480. I wonder if this is like an Excite Bike